Hi, and welcome back to our show, Health, Wellbeing and Lifestyle. Our first guest today is Helen Mack, and this is part of the series Optimising Outcomes, and today she's talking about taking action. So welcome, Helen.
Thanks, Linda.
Can you just start us off by how people would start taking action?
Sure. So we've talked about creating clarity, we've talked about maximising momentum, and we've talked about maintaining mindset. And all of that is fantastic, but if you're only thinking about it, then nothing's going to change. So without action, all we have is contemplation. And thinking never made anything occur. I think some people get into what I call analysis paralysis. They spend so much time thinking about which should I do and what's the best thing to do that they don't realise that by simply choosing to act, they bring in some power from the universe that somehow supports and helps you then take the next step.
So important, isn't it, for us to think about that overthinking takes over so easily in life.
And it's exhausting because you spend your whole time trying to sort out the priorities and which is the best thing and can I and just asking all these questions that end up with you going into a spiral and nothing happens. And then you start beating yourself up about all the things you should do. I call it shoulding all over yourself. I should do this and I should do that. None of that matters. All you need to do is just take a small positive step forward. And the wonderful thing that happens then is that you get feedback. So you take a tiny step and the universe gives you feedback. That was a great decision, Helen, keep going. Or, oh, I don't think so. And you'll get obstacles and things that make it really, really difficult. And the key piece is to watch for those, to notice those messages and go, this is seeming like it's really, really hard. Maybe I should just pause and take a slightly different direction. So I like to use, this is going to give away my age, but I like to use the example of push starting a car. Now, there are going to be some of our viewers who go, what are you talking about? Because you can't push start automatics. But in the days of manual cars, you had to get the car into momentum before you could change direction. You had to take action. You had to put some input in to get an outcome. And it's the same with whatever goals you're at. Your viewers may have noticed, if they've been watching, that I'm a bit of a fan of orange. And the other analogy that I love to use is that you can't get orange juice from an orange by looking at it. You actually have to do something. You have to squeeze. And I think life's a bit like that. You don't get the juice out of life if you don't give it a good squeeze.
On that path where people can get caught up in this positive thinking thing, you were talking about that earlier. What's your take on affirmations and that sort of perspective?
I think that one of the challenges that I have with affirmations is that when a lot of people teach affirmations, they teach you to talk in the current tense about things that are going to happen in the future tense. And I think that a lot of people struggle with that because my brain goes, no, I'm not. I say, I'm tall and fit and healthy, and my little voice says, no, I'm not. So I like if I'm going to make statements about my future, I use action words, verbs, like I'm working towards, or I'm taking steps towards, or I'm becoming, rather than I am. Because my brain fights with me. If I say I am something that I'm working towards, I literally have the little voice going, no, you're not. And so I think that's a problem. Now, I'm an optimist by personality and by trade. That's what I teach the world, is how to be more optimistic. The problem with that thinking doesn't make anything happen. So, bad news for all of us. We cannot sit on the couch and think positively about the red Ferrari coming down the driveway. It's not going to happen. The piece that's missing is what I call the action imperative. The only way to get that red Ferrari, if that's what you want, is to go out and do something to make that happen. And that's why I love optimism as an approach, because optimism has a built-in action imperative. The word itself, optimism, comes from optimus, which is Latin, the search for the good, the search for the best possible. And again, your viewers may remember that from our first episode. So the search for the best possible outcome is built into optimism. It doesn't mean that we are always sweetness and light and balloons and streamers. It means that we take a realistic look at what's going on. Where am I now? Where do I want to go? What's the best possible route for me to get there? And then what's the action I can take to move me towards that goal?
I love that becoming. Because that's totally relevant for me in my journey. I could always have those arguments with myself, and then the overthinking is more compounded, isn't it?
Correct.
You're not feeling like that. So
No.
how can I be that if I'm not feeling?
Yeah,
like
I
it?
can't say I am when I'm not yet. So I'm becoming is a very powerful change of verb.
So in regard to bigger things and with that possibility thinking, what sort of action can we take towards that to get the best possible scenario?
So I'm going to start with one that your viewers have probably heard before, because I think a lot of people have heard, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Now, I quite like that analogy, except that I also like elephants. So I don't like the idea of eating elephants. I think the key is to take the tiniest possible step to activate what we talked about a couple of sessions ago around maximising momentum. Once we get into action, once we get into movement, like pushing that stalled car, once we get it moving, then we've got the chance to change direction. It's very hard to change direction from being stopped, from being stationary. In any big project, the key is just to take that first tiny step. Once you get that tiny step, you'll get feedback, you'll have a chance to take more steps and more steps. One of my favourite sayings in this area was delivered to me by a very good friend, Max Dixon, and he said, just choose a single, simple, doable thing. Then you know you've done it, and then you can choose another one. Baby steps will still get you there.
Oh, wonderful. Thanks so much, Helen, for joining us in this series. For more information on Helen and optimising outcome and today's taking actions on that, then please go to her webpage on our website, healthwellbeingandlifestyle.com.au. And now we'll go to break and be back with another beautiful guest. Welcome back, and next we have Sean Connell back with us, who's a lymphologist, and today he's talking about the immune system. So welcome back, Sean.
Thank you.
And the immune system today, so can you tell us more about that?
Okay, so our immune system is our white blood cells. So our immune system actually starts at our coccyx bone. Our coccyx bone vibrates and that pumps our bone marrow. And then all the bone marrow make the white blood cells, and the white blood cells get sent to our thymus gland right in the middle of the chest to make the T cells, killer T cells, and all the things that will run around and clean up all the viruses and bacteria and the unwanted things in our body that are upsetting our immune system. So a lot of people rub Vicks on their chest and they think it's for the smell, but it's not. It's for the thymus gland, which is your immune system.
Can you tell us a bit more about how the immune system works?
Okay, so when we have inflammation in the body, there's no oxygen. Now the challenge with that is the white blood cells need oxygen to run around and clean up all the cancer, the viruses and the bacteria, the things that aren't supposed to be there. So when we have inflammation in the body, the immune system's not working in that area. So what your cells will actually do is, because there's no oxygen, the cell is technically off, because it needs oxygen to work. So what the cell will do is go into spontaneous firing, creating heat. So it'll use heat to try and kill the bacteria, the viruses and the cancer that's not supposed to be there. So this is why your body gets a fever. So every degree that you increase the temperature in your body is doubling your immune system. So a fever, every degree that we increase the temperature in our body, is actually doubling our immune system. So it's doubling the white blood cells to get into that area and clean up all the unwanted bacteria, viruses and the germs that are not meant to be there.
We have germs and parasites and things in our bodies all the time, is that correct?
That's right. We have to live in harmony with those. So when they get out of balance, our immune system will just go in there and clean that up. Also, a lot of people don't realise that we have 1 million bugs in us. So a lot of Lyme's disease out there at the moment. people suffering. So when there's lack of oxygen, those bugs wake up. So the oxygen keeps them asleep. So when they wake up, they're hungry, so they want to eat. So they actually start to eat us, and that's where all the challenges come from. So increase that oxygen, that'll put the bugs back to sleep, that'll boost your immune system back up, and everything's back to normal.
So Sean, when you talk about the oxygen and the white cells, how can we increase the oxygen in our body?
Well, the oxygen's coming from the bloodstream, and so when there's inflammation in the body, there's no oxygen in that area. So the only way to remove that inflammation is through the lymphatic system. So we have to remove that inflammation out of the body. Then the oxygen can get to the cells, and then the white blood cells can clean everything up, and our metabolism can turn on, which creates the energy, and this is why health is energy.
And you talked before, I know, about the four different ways of increasing oxygen is that correct?
So yeah, there's 4 ways to activate the lymphatic system. So deep breathing, bouncing, stroking, and energy. So when the lymphatic system's moving, that'll move the inflammation and dead cells, toxins away from the cells, and then more oxygen can get to the cells. So when there's more oxygen around the cells, the white blood cells can work, and they'll just go around and clean up all the cancer, the viruses, the bacteria, the things that aren't supposed to be there.
So Sean, what would your best advice for our viewers to be around the immune system?
Well, we must keep the lymphatic system moving to remove that inflammation out of the body so we can get more oxygen into the cells. So when there's more oxygen there, the white blood cells can go around and clean everything up. Also, our stomach acid is so important. So we need the proper stomach acid so we can have a proper immune system. Also, there's a gene that we work with, the MTHFR gene. So if that's not working properly, which 50% of the population around the world have a dysfunction with this gene. So this gene helps make the T cells and natural killer T cells that help clean up our body as well. Vitamins and very, very important. So vitamin C, vitamin D, vitamin D3. We must keep on top of that with good nutrition. So, and also health is energy. So the more energy we have, the more health we have, and then the body can regenerate and work the way it's supposed to. And we have a lot of new technology out there that really, really helps the body to increase that energy and remove that inflammation and allow the body to regenerate and heal itself. So yeah, and there's a lot of professionals out there now specialising in the lymphatic drainage and energy and how the body works and what we can do to make the body more healthy and regenerate and have a better life.
And as you said before, bring better balance.
Balance, yeah. Balance.
Thanks so much for that, Sean. And for more information about Sean Connell and the immune system, then please go to his webpage on our website, healthwellbeingandlifestyle.com.au, and we'll go to break and see you back afterwards with another wonderful guest. Welcome back, and now we have Pauline Rooney back with us, our Yoga for Wellbeing instructor and author, and today she's talking about sleep deprivation. So Pauline, welcome back.
Thanks, Linda.
And how does sleep deprivation affect our well-being?
Linda, it's absolutely amazing. It's huge. And I don't think people understand it as what it is. Sometimes we toss and turn and we say, oh, we've had a bad night's sleep, didn't get a good sleep, etc., all those types of things, but not realising the effect that it actually does have on us. And I'm sure many of us, your viewers, have woken up in the morning and felt as though you haven't even had a night's sleep. And that can affect our work, so we're not switched on, so to speak. It can affect the thought process, it can affect our moods, it can affect our eating, because sometimes if we haven't had that good night's sleep, we feel a little grumpy, so we go to the comfort foods, and that does not help. We're better off to take charge of the night's sleep. And there's such things as, when we get into bed, saying to ourselves, I'm going to sleep comfortably all night, and program the mind to know that it is sleep time, instead of going to bed and saying, oh, I never sleep, I bet I don't sleep tonight. You're programming the thought process not to sleep. So when you hop into bed, there's a couple of things that I like to do. I like to put my hands on my chest and just give a couple of thank yous for what I've done through the day. That's a really nice end of day. It can be anything you like. And if you do wake up in the night, don't lie there and arguing with yourself. Do something to really make you feel comfortable and want to go back to sleep. So you might do 7 rounds of beautiful breathing, and you really focus on the breath, nothing else. Focus on the breath. If you wanted to, you could visualize a lovely blue colour coming in and out of your nostrils. I always say you could just lie there and play. It's better than having an argument. And so you focus on your breathing. You might want to do a couple of little gentle exercises in the yoga. That's okay too. Lift your arm, raise your leg, bend your knees, those types of things. But breathing, turn your pillow over so you've got that lovely cool underneath you again. There's just so many ways in order to get your mind back on track that it is time to sleep. The other thing is, the moon can have an effect, Linda, and sometimes the moon will wake us, right? And therefore, if it is a full moon, we can take the time to go, isn't this a magic time? And really embrace that in preference of, oh, the moon's full and I can't go to sleep. So stop the blame and take charge. And the breath, the posture, the pillow turning, all those types of things are massive. It really is a large problem. And the other thing, Linda, I'm not sure how many people are aware of the children that are not sleeping. And there's so much pressure on our children today. They've got to perform at school, they've got to be good at sport, just the pressures. And it's a really big problem. So instead of putting the children to bed and saying, you better sleep tonight, or please sleep tonight, it's you have a lovely, comfy, snuggly sleep. And sometimes you can say to them, lay there and feel really uncomfortable. You know, if you don't like sleeping on your back, lie on your back until you had enough. And then you curl over to your comfy side and it's, so lovely. You want to go to sleep and you do go to sleep. So it's taking the action of feeling fabulous about going to sleep. And it does help. It changes our moods. As I started with, the sleep deprivation can make us grumpy, not think. It's interesting that research shows that sleep deprivation and driving is almost as bad as drink driving. You're totally impaired driving under the influence of sleep deprivation. And there's an incredible amount of research onto that. In fact, some of the cars of today, Linda, a bit spooky, but you'll be driving along and they'll say, you've been driving X number of hours, it's time to pull over and rest, or your eyes are tired. It's amazing technology, and that's a great help. But we need to take the charge. We need to get into that bed with the love of the sleep, love of being asleep and staying asleep and breathing. And as I say, embracing it if you wake up. And think about, I can do a couple of yoga postures. I can do my beautiful breathing instead of going, oh, I can't sleep, and going with the fight. I call it a fight, an argument with one's own self, whatever. But get into the habit of saying to yourself, tonight is my gorgeous night's sleep. I have X number of hours. The other thing is, don't go to bed when you're really tired. That's a big mistake. We tend to wait till we're very tired. you then are almost hitting the overtired. So you can get into bed and I'm wide awake. It's because you're overtired. So many of us, because of our work time, we eat too late. We just have a little snack with the cuppa at 9, 10 o'clock. No, we should have our intake well before then. Because the system is digesting, of course, and as it's digesting, we're saying, excuse me, I want to sleep. It's got a job to do too. It's better to do it while you're awake and sitting up instead of doing it when you're resting. You know, it's time to rejuvenate.
As really the top thing for today, out of all those amazing tips that you've just given, what would you say to our viewers?
I think some yoga posture is always very good because it just slows you down, takes out the stress of the day. And Linda, that can be as simple as doing a little turn in your chair, right? Just as simple as that. And you go both ways. You might want to do some work on the floor, yoga postures on the floor. That's okay. It doesn't matter. It's to separate day preparation for sleep. And if we can do that, we do sleep a lot better. Really, we do. So a little yoga, a little meditation, a little breathing, and most important, don't argue with yourself should you wake up. Just embrace it, love it, and go back to sleep.
Great. Well, that's a wonderful way to end our program. Thank you, Pauline. So for more information on Pauline Rooney and sleep deprivation, then please go to her webpage on our website, healthwellbeingandlifestyle.com.au. And now we'll finish the show and see you next week.